You may think it's harmless, falling asleep to the soothing murmur of late-night television, the familiar comfort of background voices softening the silence. Maybe you tell yourself it helps you wind down, keeps you company, distracts you from your racing thoughts. But what most people don't realize is that this quiet habit, this nightly routine that seems so innocuous, is quietly unraveling your brain's ability to heal, restore, and protect itself. Especially after 70, when your brain is more fragile, more sensitive to environmental disruption, and more dependent on high-quality sleep than ever before, the cost of falling asleep with the TV on becomes profound. Because sleep is not passive. Your brain isn't shutting down, it's clocking in. And when that process is disturbed, night after night, even by what seems like background noise, the damage is not just incremental, it's cumulative. You might not notice it at first, the occasional forgetfulness, the slow erosion of your recall, the subtle increase in mental fatigue, but it's there. And the habit that once felt like a sleep aid becomes, in truth, a nightly assault. Most people don't know this. During sleep, your brain enters highly organized electrical states. These stages, light sleep, deep sleep, REM, are not just labels. They represent intricate neurological tasks being performed. Memory sorting, emotional processing, cellular detoxification. When you fall asleep with a screen playing nearby, flickering light, erratic sound patterns, narrative arcs designed to stimulate emotion, you fragment those stages. Your brain keeps one eye open, metaphorically speaking, alert to the shifting tone of a conversation, a sudden laugh track, or an action sequence that spikes your heart rate, even if you're not fully conscious. That alertness is subtle, but neurologically real. You might stay asleep, but your brain doesn't fully drop into the deeper stages it desperately needs. After 70, your natural melatonin production, the hormone that signals your brain it's time to power down, is already lower. Your sleep cycles are shorter, more fragile. You're more prone to micro-awakenings, light sleep, and delayed REM transitions. This makes every disruption, light, noise, blue screen glare, twice as impactful. And when the disruption is nightly, even small, that's when the brain starts paying the price in long-term ways. The hippocampus, the brain's memory center, is one of the first regions to suffer from chronic poor sleep. Studies from the National Institute on Aging show that even modest interruptions to deep sleep correlate with noticeable reductions in word recall, attention span, and emotional resilience in older adults. This might explain why you feel mentally off after a night where the TV ran longer than usual, or why you wake up feeling unrested even after 7 or 8 hours in bed. It's not just the quantity of sleep, it's the quality. And screens at night rob you of that quality, drip by drip. Your brain is being asked to rest and to stay alert at the same time. That internal contradiction creates low-level stress, a sympathetic nervous system hum that keeps cortisol slightly elevated, heart rate slightly irregular, and cellular repair slightly impaired. You may not realize it, but that nightly show you think helps you fall asleep faster is doing the opposite over time. Research from Stanford Sleep Medicine shows that people who fall asleep to television take longer to enter deep sleep and spend significantly less time in it. And here's where it gets even more unsettling. The cognitive damage doesn't reverse in a single night. Sleep debt is like brain debt. It accrues interest. The more your brain is deprived of pure, uninterrupted rest, the more it struggles to detoxify itself, especially from beta amyloid, the protein linked to Alzheimer's. So if you're over 70 and feel like your mind is slipping just a little faster than expected, if you find yourself rereading the same paragraph, forgetting why you walked into the room, or losing track of time, it may not be just aging. It may be the compound effect of years of falling asleep to noise. Your brain craves stillness, darkness, quiet. These aren't luxuries. They're requirements for repair. And the moment you trade them for distraction, even gently, you are telling your brain to function in a fractured state. It's not too late, but it does require honesty. Ask yourself, what are you using the TV for at night? Escape? Companionship? Habit? All are understandable. All are deeply human. But none are worth your clarity, your sharpness, your presence. Your brain, even now, is still capable of healing, but only if you let it.
Most people think that once you fall asleep, your brain shuts off like a light switch. But the truth is far more powerful and far more fragile. When your body rests, your brain begins one of its most essential jobs, night repair. It's called the glymphatic system, a waste-clearing mechanism that activates while you sleep, flushing out cellular debris and neurotoxins that accumulate throughout the day. And yet, this system is sensitive. So sensitive that even small environmental disruptions like noise, light, or unexpected stimulation can throttle its efficiency. You may not realize this, but sleeping with the TV on, no matter how soft the volume, is like asking your brain to work in a cluttered, noisy office when it should be operating in a clean room. Silence isn't a preference after 70, it's a necessity. This might explain why you can be in bed for 8 hours and still wake up feeling cloudy. Your brain never had the full opportunity to enter the phases of sleep where the glymphatic system turns on most powerfully: deep sleep and slow-wave sleep. These are not just comfort stages, they're the physiological equivalent of nighttime janitors for your mind. And unlike physical messes you can clean later, these toxins, like beta amyloid and tau proteins, build up if not cleared, and are strongly associated with neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. You may think you're helping yourself relax by falling asleep to a show, but what you're actually doing is interrupting a crucial neurological cleansing cycle that becomes more vital with every passing decade. Sleep researchers have long emphasized the importance of sleep hygiene, and silence is a pillar of that foundation. Not just absence of noise, but the absence of unpredictability. The reason a fan or white noise machine can support deep sleep is because the sound is consistent, low frequency, and non-stimulating. But television? It's a cocktail of voices, music, tonal shifts, and sudden spikes in volume designed to capture attention. Even if you think you're not hearing it, your brain is. Your auditory cortex never truly shuts off. It continues processing sound as a survival mechanism, even in sleep. And that subconscious vigilance erodes your ability to drop into restorative stages. Now, why does this get worse after age 70? Because the very architecture of sleep changes. You experience less REM and deep sleep naturally as you age. You're more prone to micro-awakenings. Your circadian rhythms become more fragile. Even small sources of light, like the flicker of a screen or the glow of digital numbers on a cable box, can suppress melatonin release, the hormone that governs your ability to fall and stay asleep. With that reduction comes a double loss. Your sleep becomes shorter and shallower. When you add a television into that equation, your brain is asked to rest under conditions it is biologically less able to ignore. Most people don't know that the glymphatic system only functions when the brain's glial cells shrink, creating channels for cerebral spinal fluid to flow freely and clear waste. That shrinkage only happens in deep, uninterrupted sleep. So the choice to keep a screen on may seem small, but it literally shrinks your brain's ability to heal itself. Over time, this leads to greater inflammation, reduced memory formation, and even altered emotional regulation. Yes, how well you sleep affects your mood, your motivation, and your ability to feel joy. If you've noticed a quiet sense of discouragement or more irritability in the morning, it might not be emotional, It might be biochemical. And then there's something no one likes to talk about: fear. Many people over 70 leave the television on because silence feels lonely, because they're afraid of waking in the dark, of facing their thoughts, of lying awake with regrets or memories too heavy to hold. But here's the truth. Your brain isn't meant to process that emotional weight through distraction. It's meant to process it in the dream states of REM and the healing depth of slow-wave sleep. If you skip those stages, you're not just losing rest, you're losing a chance to metabolize your grief, your anxiety, your unspoken thoughts. Television might mask the silence, but it doesn't soothe the soul. Only true rest can do that. So if you find yourself pressing play at night, letting the screen lull you to sleep, ask yourself, is it comfort or is it avoidance? Is it habit or is it need? Because there's a better comfort available to you, one that doesn't sacrifice your cognitive health. The quiet of night, the gentle dark, the stillness of deep sleep, these are not enemies, they are your allies. And when you give your brain the conditions it needs to clean, restore, and protect itself, what you get back is not just better sleep, but a clearer, more vibrant version of you.
There's a rhythm your brain follows when you sleep, a sacred pattern of electrical activity that dictates everything from how memories are stored to how cells regenerate. These rhythms aren't random, they're deliberate, timed, and incredibly fragile. Among them, the delta wave is king. Delta waves are the slowest brain waves, and they dominate your deepest stages of sleep, the place where healing begins. Most people don't know this, but if your delta waves are interrupted, even subtly, your brain never completes its full restoration cycle. And what interrupts them most often? Background noise, irregular sound, the quiet chaos of a television running while you sleep. You might think you're unconscious enough not to be bothered, but your brain isn't sleeping the way you think it is. Even when you're fully out, your auditory processing center continues to scan the environment for danger. Evolution made it that way. Back when we slept under trees and in caves, our survival depended on the ability to wake instantly at the sound of a predator or storm. That wiring hasn't changed. So when you fall asleep with the TV on, your brain is being pulled in two directions. One part is trying to downshift into delta, into repair mode, while another is on alert, subtly engaged by the sound of voices, music, advertisements, or emotional tension in the show you forgot to turn off. This divided state leads to what sleep scientists call cortical microarousals, brief activations of the brain that often go unnoticed but fragment your sleep quality. You may not even remember waking, but your brain was jolted just enough to disrupt delta wave production. And when that happens consistently over months or years, the consequences accumulate like a slow leak in your cognitive foundation. You may notice this as subtle changes, forgetting names more frequently, struggling to follow a conversation, losing your train of thought mid-sentence. But under the surface, the delta wave depletion is doing something far deeper. It's dulling your brain's sharpest edges. In a landmark study by the University of California, researchers found that even moderate auditory disruptions during sleep, particularly those with fluctuating volume, led to measurable reductions in memory recall and verbal fluency in older adults. These weren't loud noises or trauma-level interruptions, just normal television sounds playing during sleep. This might explain why, even with 8 hours in bed, you feel mentally groggy the next morning. Your brain was never allowed to fully engage in the slow, rhythmic oscillations it needs to organize and strengthen memory networks. You were resting, but your brain was still being interrupted. Delta waves are also intimately tied to your emotional regulation. During deep sleep, when delta waves peak, your brain downregulates the amygdala, the region responsible for fear, anxiety, and stress response. When that process is broken, you wake up with heightened emotional sensitivity. You may feel more irritable, less patient, or quietly overwhelmed for reasons you can't name.
It's not just your mind playing tricks on you, it's a neurochemical imbalance from incomplete sleep. And at over 70, when hormonal shifts already heighten your vulnerability to stress and anxiety, losing those precious delta cycles makes everything feel heavier, harder, and more unmanageable. It's also important to understand that your brain doesn't produce delta waves on command. They arise only when the conditions are right. A cool, dark room, a nervous system that has been gently calmed before bed, and no external interference pulling attention away from the descent into true rest. Even something as seemingly benign as a television drama playing softly in the corner can disrupt that. Why? Because it activates narrative tracking. Your brain, even asleep, recognizes voices, emotions, and story arcs. It gets pulled into them, tugged just enough to stay on the edge of wakefulness. That tension cancels out the deep dive into delta. And here's the most sobering truth. Delta wave activity naturally declines with age. That's biology. By the time you reach your 70s, your body is already working harder to maintain deep sleep cycles. That means your brain is more easily thrown off by disruptions and takes longer to recover from poor sleep. You have less buffer, less neurological slack. So every night you spend in a disrupted sleep environment, like falling asleep to the TV, isn't just a neutral habit. It's an accelerated loss, a withdrawal from a cognitive account that's harder to replenish with age. But here's the hopeful side. When you remove the noise, your brain begins to remember, quite literally. Delta wave activity can improve with better sleep hygiene. Studies show that within just a few nights of sleeping in silence and darkness, older adults experience more consolidated slow-wave sleep and better memory performance. Your brain is resilient. It wants to heal. It's just been fighting through static. So tonight, before bed, try this instead. Turn off the TV. Let your room fall into silence. Let yourself ease into darkness without distraction. You might feel restless at first. You might even feel lonely. But if you stay with it, if you give your brain the stillness it needs, you might notice something astonishing in the morning. A little more clarity, a little more focus, a brain that's finally allowed to go all the way down so it can rise again.